Hello, everybody. It's lovely to see you all here, and yeah, thank you for being here, and also thanks to the organizers of the conference for yeah, making it possible that we can speak here, and we hope that you'll get something out of this talk. Maybe just a quick introduction to us. We're just introduced. We're the Vegan Rainbow Project, so it's really just us. Sometimes people are like, okay, so who's involved? And it's just like, no, it's just the two of us, and we are trying to basically bring different movements together, bring the topics that are very dear to our hearts together. And yeah, for me, like Daniela founded in 2017, I've been involved for about a year. And yeah, we're pretty much all self-taught, and so we're also very open to criticism if you have anything to critique, and we hope that you feel comfortable to come to us afterwards if you feel like you want to address something. Yeah, so basically we have a little agenda here. So we call it the lesbian and liberation agenda, making reference to the gay agenda if people are familiar with that. So first we're going to talk a bit about constructing others, or what really constitutes the animal, which is basically a very fuzzy thing, really. What is the animal? And actually it's just defined through the other. We're going to talk a bit about the links between feminism and animal liberation, including some of the history of it. And then we're going to go into gender, sexuality, and species, and Daniela's going to especially talk about this bit. And then we want to close with making connections and building bridges, which is basically our takeaways from our summer days, because we've been doing this project for like the beginning of the year, started doing talks and also going to demos like Christopher Street Days. They're called in Germany like the Pride Parades and like vegan demos. And yeah, I just want to share some of our impressions from that time. So going into what is actually the animal. And we basically, like, when I first got involved in, or like interested in the topic, I stumbled across this concept of dualisms. So basically in the Western society, we have this urge somehow to define things through defining other things that are not included. For example, we have culture and nature that are quite opposed, and we also have this nature bit that is a lot inferior to the culture. And first, I want to talk about emotion and reason. And when you read through all of these things here, basically what comes to mind is that on this side, nature, body, emotion, primitive, we usually have more or less oppressed groups in comparison to other groups, for example, women, animals, people of color, older people, LGBTQIA people, and also disabled people in comparison to those who are deemed superior. And this construction of being superior is only made possible by having someone inferior. And basically what comes out of this is, in terms of animals, speciesism. So speciesism is really the domination in favor of one species, discrimination in favor of one species, which usually are humans, over another species to justify the exploitation of these species. And yeah, the exploitation in this sense is really crucial. And I want to talk a bit about capitalism here because I feel it's important to share this. Capitalism really benefits from this speciesism. Like, we have constructed this thing, okay, animals are inferior, so now we can exploit them. And we kind of need to uphold this speciesism to continue exploiting them. And in this system, not only in system, you can argue what was there before, the exploitation or the speciesism. Maybe it arrives together, but we can still see, okay, they benefit each other. So we stopped seeing animals, I would say other animals, as what basically the word was meaning, anima, that means soul or like being or presence. But we see them more like as capital, really. And I think this image here illustrates that quite well, that we divide these lovely beings into pieces and parts, and by we objectify them, we make them disappear, which I'm going to talk about later as well. And there we set the basis for basically excluding them from any moral consideration. Like, we don't have to think about them because they're like objects. I mean, we have some great talks about this earlier from Carolina, also from Trudy, and other great speakers at this conference. And yeah, thereby we can say, okay, they are not beings, they are property. And in English, they're fittingly called livestock. So yeah, you can see the connections here. And another example I wanted to talk about very recently that you maybe heard of is the case of the Amazon rainforest. You've heard that the forest is burning, and you've also heard that it's been cut down. And this example, I believe, quite well illustrates. I mean, it's a horrible example. Like all the red areas here, you can see they're the areas that have been cut down. It's a prime example of speciesism, of disregarding other animal species. For example, like most of the forest has been cut down for cropland or for feeding land for cows. But like the land that's been cut down, like we can't forget about the species who go extinct by cutting down the rainforest. And we also can't forget about the environmental racism that's inherent in here, because indigenous people are also taken, like their land is taken from them. And there's a map of all the fires that are burning. And I also want to highlight here that it's not only the Amazon rainforest that's burning, but it's the savanna that's burning. And quite a few forests in this world are burning. And we, as vegans or vegan activists, we often say people like, you should go vegan and all of this will stop. Yeah? Like, who has been using that argument? Like, I see some shy hands here. Yeah, probably people would stop burning down the rainforest to grow crops for feeding cows. And they probably would also stop burning down the rainforest for letting them graze. But if people can make profit from burning down the rainforest, they will do that. So please keep that in mind. And please keep in mind it's not only a problem of the climate crisis, but also a species problem, a racist problem. And it's been largely promoted by the change of the regime in Brazil recently. And yeah, just a final remark to this topic is that, yeah, we are currently at an animal rights conference and we talk a lot about making the world a better place, but if we don't fail to address this crisis, we probably won't even be here to make this a better place. I don't want to end it on this negative note, but I feel it's very important to bring it out there. I'm now going to talk a bit more about the connections between feminism and animal liberation. And coming back to the example of the rainforest, I firstly wanted to talk about ecofeminism, because ecofeminism has quite early, like as early as 1974, I was coined by a French feminist. And it really sees the connections between the oppression of women and nature. So basically they're both oppressed by others who deem themselves more dominant or more valid or superior. And she wrote this in a book quite fittingly called Feminism or Death. And it today especially has its relevance because women are largely a lot more affected than, for example, men by the climate crisis. They're more affected by land grabbing. They're usually the people who, usually women and children are the people who die during climate catastrophes. So it is also a feminist issue. It's also an animal liberation issue, of course. And I just wanted to highlight here that it's obviously not only the connections between the oppression of women and nature, but also oppression of, for example, other animals, or like connection with racism, classism, etc. So yeah. And even before that, women in particular were fighting the patriarchy and also fighting for their rights, but also fighting for other animal rights. And I don't know if you're familiar with the suffragette movement, who basically fought for women's voting rights in the UK especially. And they were quite involved, especially in anti-vivisection campaigns. And they were also, we're from Germany, they were also involved in Germany, but because they were women, they were not allowed to vote in these societies, in these animal rights societies. So they could be members, but they weren't really taken as seriously. And which later on led to them founding their own organizations. And I briefly wanted to highlight the Brown Dog Affair, which was between 1903 and 1910, where they were actually quite violent protests and fights between medical students who were at that time, I believe, men only, and feminists who also like stormed the classrooms of the medical facility because they were vivisecting a dog, like a little brown terrier, who this statue is dedicated to. The statue is actually not there anymore, it has been destroyed. They have put a new statue up now. So they're very early, and you can see that people, especially women, saw the connections between fighting for their rights and fighting for rights of other animals. And I don't really want to talk about this in detail, but these are like all the animal rights organizations that have been founded by women. And in 1944, you can also see the Vegan Society. I mean, we always talk about Donald Watson. We never really talk about Sally, who was also like heavily involved in founding the Vegan Society, which is quite an interesting point. And as you can see, these are all examples of like US and UK organizations, but veganism definitely isn't a Western or new like invention or development. I mean, other countries, other cultures, they've been doing that a long time before we started that. So please also keep that in mind when talking about these things, thinking about these things. And I previously mentioned that women were fighting patriarchy and they were also fighting for animal rights. And I just want to give you a brief definition of the patriarchy, because so that we're just basically on the same page. So definition is that the patriarchy is a political social system that insists that males are inherently dominating, superior to everything and everyone, deemed weak, especially females, and endowed with the right to dominate and rule over the weak, and to maintain that dominance through various forms of psychological terrorism and violence. That's a definition by bell hooks. And you may think, oh, that's quite a strong definition, like psychological terrorism and violence, but it's actually quite fitting in the way. And we heard Carolina earlier, like this weekend, talk about all the different ways in which like patriarchal oppression of other animals and women is alive. She used a different grouping that I did here. This is mostly inspired by Af and Solko, two great writers. And the first one I'm going to talk about is the objectification of the body. Then the violence towards other animals, that's closely linked to the violence towards humans. Then also this includes sexual harassment and abuse and degradation in society, and also through language. And then as a final point, I want to highlight some cultural scripts that normalize this behavior. At this point, I want to say that, I mean, as you maybe have been able to tell from the topics like violence and sexual harassment, I just want to tell, if you don't feel, like I'm trying to warn you about the things that I'm talking about, but please, if you don't feel comfortable with this, like obviously nobody feels comfortable with these issues, but if you're triggered, if you feel like you can take it, please take precautions, please leave the room or close your eyes or your ears. Yeah, I'm gonna start by showing you some images. These are images of actual advertisements. And when you look at them, I want you to ask yourself the questions: are you looking at sexualized animals or at animalized women? I'm gonna start showing the first picture in a second, so please close your eyes if you don't want to see these pictures. They're not a lot of blood or anything, but they're just not great to look at. So I also say when I stop showing these pictures. So this is an advert for ham, as I believe. There's an advert for geese legs. This advert is for a chicken diner. There's also, this is another goose. This is actually an advert from a German transport of other animals. This is quite a similar thing from a Polish company. They have the image of the burger shown with like, I mean, it reads "eat me," and the burger shown with like sexy legs and high heels. This one reads "best butts in Georgia." This one I found. Everybody loves big breasts and over a burger. This one reads striptease, referring to the strips on the flesh of, this being who was killed. And this advert actually has been hanging in, I believe, a Spanish burger fast food chain. Had been taken down after some criticism, but it has been hanging there for quite some time. There's a woman or a female presenting person lying on top of a burger bun. And one final example that was actually quite recent, this is a German example. It reads in German, as beautiful as a woman, only tastes different. This advert has actually been taken down after more than 30 complaints to the advertising agency that's for Germany. But yeah, especially the engaging with the people who were running this campaign really showed they were arguing like, oh yeah, we just want to project this positive image of women being beautiful and desirable, like on the meat. So if you think about this, like, what kind of image do these people have of women? I'm gonna, yeah. Honestly, I don't really know what to say about this anymore because this was literally, I believe, 2 weeks ago that they took this down. So it's a very recent problem, and it's still happening, and probably will continue to happen if we don't do anything about this. So how is this even possible that we do this? Basically, these women, like these images, they imply that women and that other animals, or like women or people we see as female, are consumable objects. And we don't even see like any like subjectivity or individuality in these pictures. We just see, okay, it's not like they're not it, you can really say. It's not even a person anymore. It's an object. They are not a person anymore. And they are literally turned into meat. There's a concept coined by Carl J. Adams, which is called the absent referent, where basically the person disappears behind the thing that is advertised. So, and thereby we can turn these people into objects and then just not think about them because they're just objects. And this also really shows in our language, because we shouldn't really underestimate the power of language, like, because the way we talk about each other, in a way, pictures are also a way of communicating with each other. They're a form of language, but in spoken language, like slurs often refer to female animals like bitch, cow. I'm sure you can also think of examples in your language. And then as well, like especially in the English language, it's quite strong that we say beef and not cow flesh. We don't really say lamb flesh, we say mutton, and all these things. And another word that really that came up at this conference is, for example, for a term used to describe how humans keep other animals, is animal husbandry. So yeah, that's just another word I want to throw out there. And the really, really troubling and shocking and super sad thing about this is that we can depersonalize, or that we continuously and we on a daily basis depersonalize people, like both other animals and humans, through referring to them as animals. And really, if we call someone, like this quote is by the book from Aphorism, Zirkle wrote this chapter, it's just calling someone an animal or non-human is more than enough to justify extreme violence toward that person. The justification is in the choice of that term itself. There's no need to appeal to anything external. So when we say someone is an animal, we basically imply they're inferior, and we don't really have to take them as seriously because they're driven by their instincts or whatever. And the animal, really, is the conceptual vehicle for justified violence, or as Descartes also puts it, a violence-producing category. I'm going to talk about the violence-producing category, or how this violence-producing category really shows in violent behaviors now. So here's a little warning about the next 2 minutes, I believe. So studies have shown, actually there are more than 1,300 studies, that show the links between violence towards other animals and humans. You can look up this list on the website of the National Link Coalition. And just, I mean, it's just a list. It's a list of articles, just a list of articles really, of academic articles. But reading through that list and scrolling through that list, scrolling to 1,300 and more studies, like they're updated every year. Or like not even year, like there are recent studies on that really show all these links. It's truly heartbreaking. And I believe there's like, this should show there's more than enough evidence to show that by tolerating violence against anyone, we basically agree to violence and depersonification. And what's especially striking that this violence, when it's committed against other animals, also really turns against humans. Like we have examples of, yeah, I mean, maybe you've heard of like the story that serial killers first abuse other animals. Who has heard of that? Yeah, I see quite a few hands showing here. So yeah, it really normalizes violence. And another one is that perpetrators may threaten to harm other animals, or what in these studies often referred to as pets of people they abuse. I'm going to give a few examples here. Basically, it's, so close your, like try to close your ears or whatever. If you don't want to listen to this. For example, there is a report of someone basically saying that, okay, if you don't keep quiet about what I do to you, I'm gonna kill the cat. Or that the other animals are tortured in front of the person who's also abused, to basically show that the people have the power to hurt, and also show that they have the, like, that they're willing to hurt the person. And it even goes as far as killing the other animal. And yeah, what's specifically vile about this is that many shelters, like for women and children, that do not accept other animals. So basically, these people have the choice of staying or leaving, and also that the other animals are usually the only place of comfort for these people. So yeah, it really, I don't even know what to say about this. There were really reports that are super hard to read of extreme violence, and basically just showing, okay, I have the power to hurt you. And these people know they're not going to be like really persecuted or anything for doing harm to another animal. So this really shows the problem we have in society. And yeah, this violence can include even sexual abuse. That also includes the other animals. So yeah. And another thing that's been really striking about this is that children who experience abuse, they're also more likely to abuse other animals. So the cycle of violence continues and continues. And it's also an early warning sign for others. So if children are violent towards other animals, they could be abused at home. So I just want to put that out there. And like this violence I talked about is usually committed in the home, but we have this systemic violence that is reproduced in slaughterhouses and pretty much everywhere, in every country. And there are lots of studies that show that there are more violent crimes in communities where there are also slaughterhouses. And there were quite a few talks about hunts and hunt subbing earlier, or this whole weekend, which also show that hunters, or people who do hunt subbing, they know that these people are usually easily triggered and probably more violent than other people, because they're probably more used to violence. And this violence not only goes outside, also goes inside against the slaughterhouse workers, because I believe that most people do not want to work in a slaughterhouse, and they only work there because they really have to. I think they have to survive, and they get traumatized by that as well. I just briefly want to mention some normalized and institutionalized violence. I'm speaking of institutionalized here because it's also supported, for example, by the state and funded by the state. So we have meat eating, which also includes milk and dairy, milk and eggs. I'm going to just mention the school milk program here. And also there's this myth that if the animal had a good life, then it's okay to kill them. Hunting, which I briefly touched upon, and also animal testing, which we are told the story that it's necessary. I mean, there were quite a few talks on that this weekend as well. And I think we know it's not necessary. And all this is like really enforced by cultural scripts about meat and masculinity, for example. Just some things I'm going to throw out here. Maybe you've heard that. I mean, yeah, this over there is like shows, it has been taken down, it's not, it has been taken down and says tofu is gay meat. It's quite homophobic as well. So we have this thing that men eat meat, that meat eating is manly. Men are the hunters, then only women and gay people eat salad. We have this conception that women belong in the kitchen and men do the barbecue. When I think about the barbecues of my childhood, that's probably, what was happening. And then being veggie or vegan is okay for women, but not really for men. Like, I've been told that. And I don't know where they get that idea from, that they have a different, like their bodies working differently in fundamental ways. But these are myths that are out there, and these are things that are repeatedly told to normalize this, yeah? So I just really want to make you think critically about the stories you tell in our society. And now is a brief thing. I just wanted to ask, where are we in animal rights? Talking about objectification of bodies and violence, and how objectification and demonstrations of violence promote violence. I'm going to show you some pictures of actions now that are out in the street. And I just want to make you just think about this. Just think about what these images transport, especially in relation to what we talked about earlier. The images they portray. And I also want to read a short testimonial from a survey on harassment, discrimination in non-profit organizations. It reads, I worked at an animal rights organization where I was routinely asked to participate in naked or nearly naked sexually charged protests. Not only did it make me feel extremely uncomfortable, especially when male campaigners were the ones to ask, as if the only way I could really help animals was through my body. I was also made to feel like I hurt animals as a result of saying no. And those who were not deemed conventionally attractive were never asked to participate in these demonstrations. I remember chatting with one colleague who told me how they never asked her because she was fat and ugly. This is from a survey that Lisa Camera also does, and it's still online. It's on canhart.org. So please, if you have similar experiences, go there and share them. Share your testimonies, share your stories, and really make others aware of this as well. Okay, this was for me quite heavy. I hope you're still, again, this was a smile. At least here's a happy picture of Muffy, Daniela's rescue, and I'm gonna hand over.
Okay. This is Muffy. She's from a laboratory. She's an animal testing dog and is living now the best life. Yes. I'm sorry, I'm not that good in English like India, but I try my best. Okay. I start with a question: how often have you heard these sentences? This isn't natural. Aren't you missing anything? Humans have always lived this way. You just need. My children will be normal. You're the intolerant ones. Don't tell me how to live my life. And why do you always have to talk about this? So, and this is what vegans always hear also. But the difference is that sometimes I don't know if they talk about me as a vegan or me as a lesbian, because the sentences are the same also for me as a lesbian. And this was the start of this project, because I made this connection that's that has to mean something, that I don't know what they're talking about, why they talk, boy that tell me that, and I don't know, like I said, is this about me as a lesbian or maybe as a vegan? And yeah, there were women and people of color before me, of course, they made the connection long time ago, like Carol J. Adams and Lisa Camera. But yeah, I wanted to start it. Yeah, always make visibility about that problem. Yeah. Is this even natural? Same-sex behavior. Whoops, sorry. Yes. No. Most species have same-sex behavior, of course. Yeah. And very few species are entirely heterosexual and monogamous. So yeah, you know that. And sex isn't inherently procreative. And according to biologists, sexual behavior serves to improve social bonds, reduce conflicts, increase reconciliation, or exert dominance. Yeah. Yeah. Many fish and other species have more than one gender. And the interesting point was that Finding Nemo was wrong, the movie, because Nemo would have changed his sex. So, yeah. And I talked with my colleague. Oh, I think he will kill me if you see that. But I talked with my colleague when we get a chance to do a rebirth. That we wanted to be. My colleague is also gay, and we have the chance to get a rebirth. We want to be giraffes because they have the most of the time homosexual sex and not straight sex. So yeah. Okay, I think he's killing me now. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Just as a reminder, humans are queer animals too. Yeah. Sorry. Greta Gard said over 20 years ago that the natural is procreative is used to oppress both women and queers. You can read that sentence, and that is also a main problem that we have. And yeah, that everyone is saying that it's only natural when the man has to gets to be a mother or something like that. And how is what we do to other animals natural? The females in the animal industry exploitation as units of production and feminized protein, like J. Adams said. And the funny thing is that I often have a discussion with feminists and other lesbian and bisexual women. And when I say I'm a vegan, they come to me and say, "Oh, I'm a vegetarian too." And I say, "Okay," because yeah, I, I want to tell them that they are also a main problem, but I try to explain to them that this is only the first step, and maybe try to be a vegan because you are exploiting especially female animals, and that is a big problem. So yeah. And yeah, the same happens to males, and yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the animal industry and other animals do not have a choice if, how, and when they want to engage in sexual behavior and procreation. Yeah, we also do. Pets are routinely spayed and neutered. Yeah, and I know that is necessary at this moment. I'm supporting an animal shelter in Nepal, and that is the only way to reduce the problems there. But I also spayed my dog at home, and sometimes I feel not good about that because I took the chance from her to feel and have her own sexuality. I know that is necessary at this moment, but the next step is to think about that. Is this really necessary? So yeah, so only to think about that. What does it mean for sexual freedom and exploring sexual identities, like I told before? Yeah, we had this funny thing I read a few minutes ago in the queer magazine, that in Berlin there is a gay penguin couple who wanted to have a baby, and they gave them an egg, and this egg was not what's called what, hunched? Hatched, yeah, okay. And the all the queers are very sad about that, and they also had a gay penguin couple in New York, and they also made a book out of it. And there was a big discussion between New York gay community and Christian groups about how this is natural and not natural. We had this, and this is sometimes I'm getting very angry about that we had years ago, we had, until last year, we had a gay night at the zoo. We had gay people who enjoy their freedom during watching animals in cages. And I'm getting very angry about that. And this was not again this year, but yeah, I was getting very angry and said, this is not my community, and we have to stop thinking about that, because 100 years ago have done that to other people too, and yeah, this is one thing that has to stop. And yeah, so other animals are instrumentalized while simultaneously being disregarded as persons with their own agency. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, maybe we can do that together. Yes.
I don't know. Oh, this actually works. Yeah, I think just one last bit I wanted to add about the penguins is that basically people unknowingly reinforce this myth that yeah, only procreation is natural by giving these gay, which is a human construct, penguin an egg. And if they hatch it, they're good parents and they're okay to be gay. I just thought that was a very interesting point, because, like, okay, so if they're having a baby and if they're having a family, they're normal, they're natural. So
give them then gay marriage and everything is happy. Yes.
yeah, so it's quite problematic in that sense as well.
Yeah.
Genau. Sorry.
No.
We just that was a German word. Yeah, so basically this is just our impressions from the summer. Like all these images were taken during the summer, like in the top row at the demos, and then yeah, especially there was like a little info stall at the like at the prize event, and then also a talk at the Berlin Summerfest.
We were really surprised that
Yeah.
there's so much interest in our project. I didn't. Yeah, like I said, we were surprised and happy also about that. And yeah, we went to Cologne Pride, Berlin Pride, Wiesbaden Pride, Mainz Pride, Frankfurt Pride,
and Nuremberg.
yeah, and all the people were shouting in Cologne. We have over 1 million visitors, and lots of women were shouting at us, "Oh my God, vegans, vegans! I'm vegan too," and everything. And all the people were coming to our stall and were asking about vegan food, because in Cologne there was no vegan option, not one on this completely street festival.
Well, you could eat fries, but
yes, fries you can. Yeah, the only thing
Yeah.
is, and yeah, this was very shocking for us, and yeah, and that's what the people talked about with us, and yeah. The regular meetings, we get so much questions about regular meetings. They want to connect with each other. We want to think about that, what we can do about that.
So if you have any input on that, or if you could think about what to do there, it will also be highly appreciated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can I meet other queer vegans? It's a big question one in the summer. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, maybe, yeah. We just briefly sat down and thought about, okay, so what are our takeaways from the summer days? The first one is there's more support out there than you really may think. And building bridges means more support for everybody. That's why we believe it's so crucial to connect different movements. And it's also crucial to build communities. People really need them. Like, we had lesbian couples coming to us as Pride events, be like, oh yeah, usually we don't really like going anymore because we don't feel like safe or accepted, and there's so much speciesism, there's so many dead animals at Pride, and we don't want that. So we don't really feel like we have a space in the community anymore, which I found super, super sad. Yeah. And also another takeaway is that really don't be afraid to do activism differently. Like, be creative. Like, we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. We just were like, okay, we just go to these parades and see what happens. And we were really...
I was prepared that we get kicked out. You know? Yeah.
Like, maybe...
And we in Berlin we started the parade. Okay, it was not officially,
officially
but,
not, but
yeah,
we just kind of snuck in there.
The first 2 kilometers we were the first on this parade.
Yeah. And then another crucial thing is, like, have fun if you can, because activism work is hard and it's draining and it's taken a toll on our mental health a lot of the times. So take fun, like, have fun, but also take care. Like, take care of yourselves, take care of others. But while you're doing that, please don't forget to stay critical. And there's just one final thing that we really wanted to add, is that liberation means being consistent. And there's this great vegan bill of consistent anti-oppression out there. You can Google it, also drafted by Carol Adams and Julia Felice. Basically, it, like, in a lot more detail and a lot more eloquently than I am going to briefly say, that is that we can't fight oppression while tolerating others. Really, we can't. We can't sustain these oppressive systems, just get rid of, like, one form of oppression, because they're going to come back. And you're definitely not dividing the movement by staying true to your values and by wanting to end all forms of oppression. Like, don't let people tell you that you're dividing the movement just because you say, like, no, I'm not tolerating any oppressive behavior. Please don't let people tell you that. And also, nobody's activism is more important than the oppressive behaviors they engage in. Like, I know there's quite a lot of vegan heroes or people out there who get a lot of publicity, but if doesn't mean that their oppressive behavior is any less important. It's actually really toxic if we believe that, because then we're harming other people in the movement who are vulnerable to being oppressed by these people. So it's important to recreate truly safe and inclusive spaces in activism. And I just want you to take a brief moment and look around this room and see how much diversity is in here. We're all very white. Most of us are young, able-bodied people. And I just wanted to say that creating these inclusive spaces can never be only cosmetic. Like, even if we had a really diverse crowd, or if you have an organization where there are many, many people, if we still have a white, male, cisgender, heterosexual person who usually probably from, like, upper middle class, sitting at the top, making all the decisions, we don't really have diversity. So I'm not hating against these people. I'm just saying that diversity can not only be cosmetic. Like, just seeing, like, different people doesn't mean they actually have a say in the decision, and it doesn't mean they're truly accepted and their needs are truly respected. And just to close here, we wouldn't be here otherwise if we didn't feel safe in this community. We wouldn't feel happy as women, as queer people, standing in front of a stage if we were afraid of the community, basically.
Don't let your kick around.
Yeah.
Really.
So I just wanted to close with some recommendations and big, big thank you. Because there's so many people who have done so much great work that we basically, we didn't really come up with anything. We just read a lot of stuff. And then there are a lot of great people who, like Beast of Burden is a great book that has all been referenced in the talk by Trudy, and Aphorism, and, like, mostly women of color doing a lot of great work. And we should really show them a lot more appreciation and a lot more support. And I just wanted to say a big, big heartfelt thank you to these people who basically opened our eyes to all of these things. And and that's it from us. And thank you very much for listening. We're happy to take questions. Yeah.